Today's reading is from Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This week's reading, The Promise of the Scriptures. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 15, we read the famous parable of the prodigal son. Jesus tells of the man who took the wealth bestowed on him by his father and squandered it in foreign lands, where he fell into evil ways. At last, repentant, he returned to his father's home. When his father saw him, he was, Jesus tells us, moved with compassion, and ran and fell upon his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee. I am no longer worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Fetch quickly the best robe and put it on him, and give him a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and bring out the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and make merry. Because this my son was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and is found. And they began to make merry. Small-hearted human beings, identified as they are with their little egos, give exaggerated importance to any slight they receive from others. Thus they imagine God, like them, to be petty, unpardoning, and vindictive. In God's eyes, however, when human beings go astray, there is nothing to forgive. All of us are aspects only of his own self. He who made us resides in us. He is not far away from us in some far-off heaven. His call to us always is to return to our home within. The way of return is described in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter. Supreme blessedness is that yogi's who has completely calmed his mind, controlled his ego-active tendencies, rajas, and purged himself of desire, thereby attaining oneness with Brahma, the infinite spirit. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Last night, as many of you know, and many of you were here, we had our annual Kriya initiation ceremony. We had 130 some odd, very odd actually, people. and about 15, 16 or 17 new initiates. Kriya is the advanced, highest technique for the age in which we live that Yogananda was sent to the West to bring. It's, you might say, the hub of the wheel of the work of Ananda. There are many aspects to what we do here. Communities, of course, form a core, as it were, of people dedicated to the work of Ananda and many others who don't necessarily live in our communities around the world. And then we have, as spokes of the wheel, our schools for children, our farms that we have, our different enterprises, East West Bookshop here locally, and retreats, and the publication of books, and many other things as well, not to mention activities, businesses, and so on, conducted by our many members around the world, working together with other members. But Kriya is the heart of it, and it's an appropriate fitting occasion for the topic of the prodigal son. You know, the context of this story, which is really one of the most beautiful in the New Testament, is the context in which Jesus was being, I don't know if silently or out loud, criticized by those who dogged him throughout his short life of ministry, 3 years or so. Those doggone Pharisees were hounding him everywhere he went, and criticizing him for the fact that he was mostly spending his time with low-caste sinners, I suppose, as they would have put it. And so he told 2 other stories, one about a gold coin and one about a lost sheep. But this one, about the prodigal son, it has a quality to it that is archetypal. And it touches people on many levels, has various aspects to it that we can distill. It's rich with meaning and import. Kriya, the practice of Kriya, which accelerates our spiritual advancement because it works directly on the subtle energies that are the matrix of our destiny and our karmic patterns, which we must overcome. And so it's sometimes said that, Yogananda said rather bluntly that it is the airplane route to God. But sometimes people hesitate. They hear things that sound like, if you accelerate your spiritual path, you're going to get it in the neck because your karma is going to come to you and you're going to be knocked off your perch. And I suppose there's some of that. After all, if we're truly dedicated to working out our karma, or dedicated to finding freedom in God, that means working out our karma. There's no easy way around that. And so part of that's true. But I want to assure some of our new initiates and all of us that we all have karma. We're going to get it in the neck one way or the other. We're not going to get out alive, as I like to put it. And because the other side of the inner path, the spiritual path regardless, but whereas the inner path accelerates our ability through stillness, through the natural mechanisms of the body and mind, using the breath and calming the mind, of feeling that divine presence, gives to our aura, gives to the matrix of our own psychic makeup, spiritual makeup, an aura of protection, such that, as Sharda Devi, the wife of Ramakrishna, once put it, that if it's your karma to lose an arm, let's say, or something, that you might only get a scratch. Because there is in that aura of divine protection, divine light, protection. And it's deeper than that even, because as we work through our karma in the accelerated process of dissolving those karmic seeds by the inner path of meditation, rather than the bullock cart of many incarnations in which we have to face that karma outwardly, find those circumstances wherein our desires perhaps can be fulfilled or seen for what they are, then in the cauterization of the ego principle that takes place as we dissolve those vrittis, those eddies, those karmas deep in the spine, there's no one there, less and less anyone there, to whom the karma can have any genuine effect. We cut the cord, like those little paddles with the ball on the rubber band, boing, 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 boing. The rubber band is the ego principle that initiated the karma to begin with. And as we cut the cord of ego, the karma may come back, but there's nobody to hit. You gain in strength. It's like, I like the example, I'm not a sports fan, okay? I don't really care much for sports, but I do watch the Super Bowl once in a while. It's like those big hunkin' guys. They go out on the field, right? Like Titans or something. It's really a stupid sport, never mind. But anyway, they go out there. It's better than burning people at the stake or whatever they did in the Colosseum long ago. So, okay, it's relative, but I don't care much for it. But anyway, those guys go out there and they get creamed, right? Or they cream each other and they go on, some of these characters, for years. Well, if you and I went out there, they'd carry us off the field in a stretcher in about 10 seconds. And so when we grow spiritually, the armor of our aura lightens and brightens. We have the strength. And so whereas some people might say, bring it on, the karma, which Jesus Christ quietly said, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Don't ask for it, you idiot. It'll come. But nonetheless, some devotees really say such things. Perhaps they shouldn't, but they have that kind of strength. So never fear the spiritual path. The spiritual path, it's not like you're going to go through this carrying this cross and all this suffering and eventually you get to have a party somewhere. It's not like that. Because the reward of the spiritual contact of the divine presence, which is our essence, is sufficient unto the day to bring us back to the cushion, so to speak. It is its own reward. We don't have to worry about the illusions of time and distance and space or karma. Like pulling a nail out of a board and you're tugging at the claw hammer. I did that once. You don't know when the stupid thing's going to come out. It could come out in an instant. And so never fear the embrace of God's love. The prodigal son tells us, the story tells us, that we are that. We are born in the home because it is our home. It is like the Adam and Eve story being born in paradise. And yet we have the choice. We can ask for our inheritance, which is our consciousness, our vitality. Adam and Eve said they wanted to be like God, meaning I want to be unto myself God-like. That's the initial rebellion. And then from that, the fascination with the world of I, the world of my likes and dislikes. And though our friend, the prodigal son, who was given no name, had to hit bottom and was feeding swine. Swine, of course, are unclean in the Jewish tradition. It reminds me of a story I heard once. This traveling salesman was puttering along a 2-lane road somewhere between cities, and he saw a farmer in an orchard, an apple orchard. Do we have any farmers here today? There's one back there. And so he noticed that he stopped because he saw that the farmer was hoisting these pigs into the apple trees on ropes so that they could eat the apples. That just blew his mind. So he pulled over and said, "What are you doing?" And the farmer was disgusted. It was obvious what he was doing. "I'm feeding the pigs," he said. And so, "What? You're feeding the pigs? Why don't you just wait till the apples fall, put it in a basket, and feed the pigs that way?" The farmer said, "Well, why would I do that? What's the point of that?" And the salesman said, "Well, it'd be a lot faster." Farmer said, "Yeah, it'd be faster, but what's time to a pig?" Just saying. Well, it's time to the soul. There is no time. Divine Mother, God, Guru is always with us. That protection is always with us. When I think of people I know, friends who maybe they've been adopted, as perhaps some of you have, others who have lost a parent or a child or other human tragedies, these are the things that create in our aura a deep yearning. And yet, even if the story has a happy ending, it doesn't last for long. There's only one real salvation, one real solution, rather, to the yearning we all feel in our heart, the emptiness that we all feel, whether successful or a failure. It's the love of God that we seek. Nothing else can truly fulfill us. This is the great teaching of the prodigal son and of all great teachers. And yet, as our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, put it, don't think you can win the love of God if you can't win the love of others, of your fellows. And so it is that the journey home has to include the embrace of all life, all people, as equals, as children of God. I think of the story Kriyananda, our founder, Swami Kriyananda, told of on himself as a young monk under Yogananda's training and guidance. Yogananda asked him once to give the techniques to kind of a Hollywood celebrity down there at the time, and this celebrity actor or wherever he was, used to love to come up to Mount Washington and meet with Yogananda, of course, and be charmed and so forth. But for whatever reason of his own, when it came time to meet with Kriyananda to learn his techniques, he would often be late or never show up. So Kriyananda said, I got kind of tired of this guy, and I treated him rather aloofly. In fact, one time in Yogananda's sitting room upstairs in Mount Washington, very often Yogananda would have Kriyananda sit there with him, with his visitors, and serve them tea or write down whatever he said and so forth. And so this one time, this actor came up there and had his visit, and Yogananda was all charming and affable and so forth, and Kriyananda just sort of sat in the corner like this, and, he was ticked off with this guy. After the fellow left, Yogananda said, oh, you are so cold to him. What if I treated all of you that way? And so we sometimes see on the spiritual path, as we become more and more enlightened with awareness, we begin to get this sense of moral vigor and what's right and so forth. We all too easily can become judgmental. Now in a place like this at Ananda, where we have many events, like yesterday, we have people working on food and decorations and things like flowers and so forth. And we forget all too easily in our haste and to do a good job, and whether at our work and so on, we all too easily forget the precept that Kriyananda gave us in our work. People are more important than things. Or as our Guru said long ago, when I am gone, only love can take my place. Jesus too said essentially the same to his disciples. Those will know that you are my disciples because you love one another. And so often we become what I call kind of a little petty dictator, a little tin Nazi or something like that, and just throw a temper tantrum or demand that people do it my way or act in a very controlling manner and so forth. I watched Kriyananda just sort of turn and leave such people when they acted out that way. And it saddens me when I see devotees act in this way, because we should know better. We're trying to know better. We are all prodigal children. And naughty or good, whether we succeed or fail in what we do, God watches the heart. And we have come not because we're saints, but because we strive to be saints, to be perfect in the eyes of God. And we have been given that which for this age is the most advanced and powerful technique of yoga, of meditation, Kriya Yoga. It's simple, and yet it's a way by which we can connect. We can draw. It's like as I said last night at the initiation, it's like having the cell phone number of the Guru, cell phone number of God. We can make contact, as Yogananda would say to his disciples in the body. Say, I play walkie-talkie with you, he says. I go through your souls every night, he told the close disciples there. And sometimes it's a little uncomfortable what I experience. And yet, I can think of stories of people there who had a temper. There were some pretty strange people, even in his midst, even when the Guru is in the body. Gives us a wide latitude, of course. nonetheless. But still, we have things to work out. And the key to our awakening is the divinity which is within us, which for this age, an age of energy, comes to us and we can commune with primarily in its most easily accessed form, energy, Kriya Yoga, which could be called, and Lahiri Mahashaya did in fact call it pranayama, Kriya Prana, because we're working with the energy. We are an energetic people. And we know what it means to multitask, probably shouldn't, but we know what that means. We have high intelligence and high energy. If we can commune with God in the quietness of our meditation as energy, first we'll know where it comes from, and we can be grateful for that. But secondly, it's that energy which is the link to our soul, to the quiet bliss of the Christ within us. This is a great gift. And Kriya Yoga, it has that simple, nondescript name, which in India means nothing more than the English word technique. It has no meaning whatsoever. There's probably 150 Kriyas you can find from this teacher or that teacher. But the Kriya of Lahiri Mahashaya is the Kriya in the sense that it works with our own life force in the center of our own subtle body, wherein is contained the seeds of our destiny. It's simple, but it's very powerful. It's a great gift. And all forms of meditation will help us in one way or another. But for those who want both the protection and the upliftment, and who consider the concept of untold number of lifetimes as a burden, the bullock cart, and want freedom, not in time and space. It'll come when it comes. We never know, like that nail in the board. But for us, it's a great gift. But in the process, as prodigal children walking our path, we must learn to love and accept one another, naughty or good, flaws and all, warts and all. Let us walk the path together as disciples, as souls, in harmony.
These are Yogananda's words from Whispers from Eternity. Save me from shipwreck on my ocean of dreams. I was shipwrecked on the storm-tossed ocean of mere dreams. My vessel of happiness was shattered utterly. Struggling, I tried to swim through those tossing waves of sadness and suffering. Then suddenly, a little raft of hope, wafted by me by thy winds of mercy, came floating to me. I grasped it and held on. Little by little, floating thereon, I touched at last upon the golden isle of peaceful silence. Nymphs of thy blessings met me and took me to thy safe presence of eternal reassurance beyond all waves of false rising hopes and crashing disappointments. Oh. Amen.